I think we have to think of it as a world phenomenon, something we had not been witnessing since the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. On the long range, it's extremely moving, inspiring phenomena, as you've mentioned, people standing on their feet, demanding what are taken as for granted in any other corners of the world, the basic human rights, and they demand it. But in the short and the medium term, it's totally unpredictable what will happen. The societies, to tell it, put it modestly, are not fully ripe for the whole, for the gestalt of democratic life. I would not expect any Václav Havel, a kind of moral beacon, emerges as a leader in any of these countries. And in the short term, we might find that the more organized elements, and mainly the Islamists, the Muslim Brotherhood, or some other bodies like this, will take over and probably take over whole societies, and that could become quite disturbing. In terms of the security of Israel, we got a lesson in modesty. You know, we cannot pretend to control, to fully understand, fully predict all these events. And we are focused, because we are a little bit isolated in the region, we are focused on our security. And we hope that the economic needs of those societies, the need to keep normal relations, the activity of major operations like Suez Canal, the need for tourism and common sense will prevail. And even if in some societies, Muslim parties will take more higher profile role, they will still keep all the structure of international commitments and especially the peace with Israel in shape and in place.
Because, I mean, let me ask you about Egypt. The Sinai now is pretty much lawless. Right? Yeah. Things going in and out of Gaza, pretty, without much control. You nearly lost your embassy in Cairo. You had to call Leon Panetta because no Egyptian would answer the phone. Even Tantawi wouldn't answer the phone. What lesson did you take from that? I mean, do you need to make the border with Sinai even more secure? What do you need to do?
We need to do the border more secure for other reasons as well. There is a major movement of workforce that's looking to cross borders from
refugees
Central
and
Africa.
Immigrants, yeah.
No, refugees should be treated. I see her Mary, so we follow her. She still carries the deterrence that everyone deals with refugees in a proper manner, but there are many just people who want to work, and we cannot accept it. And they are crossing borders into Egypt and out of Egypt. And there is a less controlled area. The Egyptian leadership is doing a lot of effort. We are in daily contact with the military authorities. They are trying. We allow them to bring more forces into the Sinai. But I can understand them if from Cairo certain issues look so urgent for them that sometimes things are going out of full control in Sinai. It's extremely disturbing. Just this morning, back in Jerusalem, the government passed a new resolution to finance an urgent effort to create an obstacle, a fence with some electronic devices on it, all along the way from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea to help the
I must say that's a familiar topic, building a barrier, building a ditch, building a trench between Gaza and
we would love
else.
to live we would love to live in North America or in Western Europe, but unfortunately.
But I mean, let me ask you, because not too long ago, 2 years ago, Israel went to war in Gaza, Operation Cast Lead, to cut back Hamas because it was getting weapons that were quite serious. Most people would say Hamas is much better armed today, and Hezbollah is much better armed today than before Israel's wars. So is Gaza once again coming up on the urgency list for Israel in military terms?
Since we have started this gathering here in Vienna, there were 36 rockets shot from the Gaza Strip into our civilian villages and cities in the south. I would like to ask you how many of you would accept a neighboring non-state or failing state, some militia that get orders from heaven to wipe you out of map and history, shooting real rockets on the heads of real civilians. That's something, it's our primary contract with our citizens is to protect them against exactly that. So I expect no one to blame us if at a certain point we come to a point where we have to take more assertive action to put an end to it. I hope it won't be very early, but at a certain point we'll have to do this. And, you know, the Middle East is a tough neighborhood, nothing to compare Western Europe or North America. We would love to have Canadians as our neighbors, but the Americans got them. And I still remember even Europe. You know, you had, after Martin Luther, the original, you had 150 years of religious wars here and another 300 years of national wars before Europe became what it is now, as Jean David Levitt described it, 70 years of tranquility, longer than the post-Vienna Congress period.
That was the European awakening, yeah. and it ended with quite a lot of blood.
And remember, it took several decades after the real awakening of Europe in 1848 until things started to settle in the right direction.
Let me ask you about Syria.
Yeah.
There's a big issue. You have a stable border. Whatever one thinks of the Bashar Assad regime, it's been stable. Are you worried that it's going to turn up? I mean, do you think it is important that the West support the opposition in Syria? Would you like Bashar to go? Would you call for his removal?
First of all, there is a deterioration there since we gathered here. And because I basically think that the falling down of this family is a blessing for the Middle East. It's something wrong. Something gets wrong with this family, the way they suppress the will of the Syrian people and killing them, slaughtering their own people. There's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people already killed, probably more, I don't know, and it deteriorated. I think that this family ended its historic role. They are going to disappear probably in a few weeks. And hopefully we'll end up like Saleh in Yemen, not like Gaddafi in Libya. But it's beyond our control. We are neighbors, but we don't think that we have to intervene in any way. I don't believe that the Europeans, with all the problems of the table, will make any step to intervene. I think that the Turks are watching it from very close distance. They understand the region much better than anyone outside the region. They reigned over Syria for 400 years. They understand the nuances. They have very intimate economic relationship, personal. They know each other. And the fact that the Arab League so courageously isolated Assad, and that even a weak monarch like King Abdullah, or not extremely strong one, took the courage to criticize them publicly. And the way that David Urlu and Erdogan are talking about Assad makes it clear to everyone in the region that they are doomed, they will fall, and no one knows what exactly will happen there. But I feel in my guts that the Syrian is a less religious society than the Egyptian. There is certain buds of civil society, of middle class. There are enough people, I believe, in the security services, in the armed forces, in the business community, in the academic community, which will be ready to join hands once he's falling down and make the future, the starting of a future government, probably a big majlis with representatives from everywhere. Mm-hmm. I think that it's better. You know, I cannot predict exactly how, but it's better than this phenomenon of exactly the opposite to what he said to Barbara Walters. He exactly killing his own people.
Are you worried that he will try to preserve his rule with an attack on Israel?
I don't think that it's something concrete. I watched his ceremony of launching probably 10 or 8 missiles. It seems to me to be out of being under pressure. Probably it had to signal to Turkey not to consider establishing a cordon sanitaire within Syria if things go worse. I don't think that it's exactly, it happened closer to our border, but I don't think that they try to threaten Israel. I don't think that it would have worked.
I mean,
too many people are hating him now, that some might find a blessing in him trying to hit Israel, and God knows what will follow.
Now, you've had strains with Turkey, but are you talking to the Turks about the situation in Syria? Are you exchanging
not
intelligence?
Enough.
Not enough.
Now, I think that 2 years ago, we would, as of now, exchanging at least some views, some information. Recently, in the last year, as a result of what the events with the Marmara and following incidents, we had not yet been able to iron out these differences. Sometimes steps taken from Turkey are not extremely helpful, and probably we would have to find this way, because Turkey is an important pillar in the Middle East. We have Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia.